I think the main thing is for people to stop thinking about the end of the world, for people to stop thinking or wishing that things won't change, and for people to realize that where AI is today, it's really think of all the data that you find in Google. They just organize it better and they just make it more easily accessible. At the end of the day, it's just really technology and it's really, really not complicated. And the same way you're speaking to me is the same way you should speak to ChatGPT or anything else. And if you start doing it that way and you start thinking of it as just your assistant, you'll be able to get a lot more value out of it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 141. In this episode, I speak with Rohan Hall. This is Rohan's second appearance on the podcast. We talked AI, emerging technologies, and a whole lot more. I cannot wait for you to check out this conversation. To watch this episode, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. To listen to this podcast, be sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To check out our sponsor, Produce Your Passion, go to produceyourpassion.com. Here's my conversation with Rohan. Rohan Hall, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast again.
Thanks, Sam. Really appreciate you inviting me back again. I know the last time we just spoke on and on and on and on. So we had such a good time. So I'm hoping we have such equally a great time today.
Well, absolutely. And it's interesting because I was telling you before we started that I went back and I listened to our first podcast we did over a year ago. And I'm listening to it and it's like, yeah, a lot of this is still relevant, but I understand it a whole lot more because I think part of the reason is it's more mainstream now. Like it's being taught, like back a year ago, people such as yourself who are experts in the space, that you guys all knew about it, but it wasn't quite mainstream yet. But now like everyone's using ChatGPT. Like everyone's doing this, that, and the other with AI. So
yeah, I'm amazed. I mean, it's just been amazing how fast that space has grown in the last year. And that when we spoke about this, I remember I'd go to like meetings and I mention it and people are like, oh, what's that? And now it's like a daily conversation for everyone. I think that there were maybe one or two newsletters that talk about that. Now I get like 20 emails a day. So it's really been, amazing. But a lot of the things that we were speaking about as things that were going to be, they're actually happening right now. And the question is, what's next? And I think that's what we can talk about today.
Yeah, well, hold on here. And I will say, I don't know if give in is the right word, but I do find myself, like I told you before we started, I finally got my paid version of ChatGPT now. And it seems like even with that, even messing with that for the past maybe 4 or 5 months, the improvements, the speed, the accuracy of what it's become a lot of people's therapists, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
You know?
I use it every day myself. I mean, and I save so much time, so much money, and it's just one of the tools I use. I use a variety of different tools, but that's certainly one of the core ones that I use. And I think as more and more people discover the things that they can do, I think that they will just see so much value that they can have from that.
Before we dive in, I do have to see again spontaneous thought. I was thinking, I'm like, is this replacing Google, ChatGPT? So I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, are you going to take over Google? It says, well, although we are not a direct competitor to Google, because Google, more for the links and things like that. But it says, yeah, it is taking real estate from Google in a way, or people are shifting to ChatGPT now to ask those questions that maybe they typically would have gone to Google for.
I don't see how it would say it's not a competitor to Google. It's killing Google. I almost don't use Google anymore. I mean, who would? You can ask the same question that you would ask Google and go to ChatGPT or go to almost any other product like that. And you don't have to click through 50 different links to figure something out. It gives you all the information. And then if you want to go and look at a link to get more details, it's really a reverse. So Google really dropped the ball on that, and they're trying to catch up now with Gemini, and they're trying to, integrate more of this technology. But yeah, they're definitely a competitor with Google, and I almost never use Google for search anymore.
Did you think that you would ever say that? Just think of that. Google was like, it just shows like how quick things can change. Like once people find something that works better, will ditch the thing they've been using for years, just like that.
Yeah, there's no real loyalty.
What's funny, Sam, is I literally was just using ChatGPT to ask it a question about a stabilizer thing. And I'm like, I just went there instead of Google because I could actually ask a full on question and it gives a thorough answer. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Literally, as you mentioned that, I was doing it.
It's true. More and more people will switch away from Google, and Google is catching up. I mean, they have such a big presence already, but ChatGPT grew so fast that it really knocked them, off their pedestal a bit. And now they're trying to catch up, and Google always build great tech, and they'll continue to build great tech. And we'll see, this race and where it goes. Gemini is a really good product. It's become good. It was really terrible a year ago. So it's becoming much, much better. And as we get further into multimodality, and we can speak about what exactly that is, we'll see Google will probably take, more of a prominent place in that, because the entire internet will be multimodal. We're starting that already. Google should have done that with their search engine a year ago, and they're just now getting to it. And so there's just a constant change, and it depends on where you want to slice, but you can go deep in any of these areas if you want.
Well, we're about to go real deep. And since we last did this, you wrote a new book. You've written several books, but Tech for Good.
Yes.
Can you take us through what is Tech for Good? What's your meaning behind it? And, really, what's the mission with this?
Sure.
Because we got a lot of doom and gloom happening right now.
Yeah. And it's relevant in that way. And I appreciate the question. I wrote this book like 5 years ago.
5 years ago?
Yeah, I did. And right before that, I worked for a company. Its name is Capital Group American Funds. They are one of the largest financial services company in the world. I think they're probably number 2 or 3 or something like this. They do about 3 trillion assets under management, and they own, shares in like basically all the major Fortune 1000 companies. They own big shares in NVIDIA, in Meta, I think in Google, in all of these. And what my job was, I worked as a part of a think tank, basically, of technologists. We were all architects, and we had different focus. So what the job was, which is one of the coolest jobs I've ever had, by the way, and I work with some of the smartest people I've ever worked with. We literally spent all the time researching emerging technologies at the time. This was maybe 8 years ago. And our job was to figure out what was going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years in these technologies. So these kinds of technologies are called emergent because they were not really commercially viable. There's maybe some a little bit. So, for example, artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, neuromorphic computing, edge computing, nanotechnology, robotics. So these are all technologies that there were a significant amount of research that was happening with them. And there were some basic use cases, maybe in governments and universities or so, but they're not really commercially viable. And so I worked with a company for a while, and after I left, I'm like, you know what, I need to write a book, to talk about this and the other emerging technologies. And so what the job was to do all the research, to write the use case, to say what's coming, what's time period, why is it important, why should you pay attention to it, and then would present that back, would write detailed reports and present it back to the organization, and then, and to the leadership and so forth, and then they'll make decisions, investment or other decisions regarding, okay, these are the companies we want to look at. And so few companies were able to do that, but this is one of the companies that was looking really forward ahead, years ahead. And they've been around for 80 something years, Capital Group. And so they had all this information already 8 or 10 years ago, right? And so I had all this information as well. And so about 4 years or 5 years ago, I started writing it and then got distracted. And then, worked a little bit, again, distracted. But at the time, you know, most people didn't know what AI was, didn't know what quantum computing was. Some people knew what blockchain was. So to find someone to edit it was really, really a pain in the butt. And I just had so many other things doing. Well, a few months ago, I decided that, okay, wow, AI has now emerged. Blockchain has been out there for a few years, so a lot of people know about it, and crypto. And we're now starting to see quantum emerge a bit further. And the things that I've been speaking about for the last decade is not just the technologies emerging, but they're also going to be a point when they start to converge. And the difference between emerging and conversion is that when something is emerging, it like AI has been emerging, we've been building for like 30 something years. It's not new, but it's not really been commercially viable. And the same thing with many of these other technologies. But once once AI really emerged over the last 3 years, because of the transformer architecture, which is one of the really main new things that made it, you know, that give it the capability to be able to understand language so much better, it became an amplifier for all of these other technologies. And so AI is helping all these other technologies to emerge faster than they were. And at the same time, AI is allowing these technologies to converge even faster than expected. And so the whole world is now changing faster than most people are paying attention to. And so this is why the book is important today, even more than 5 years ago, because what we're looking at now is, even though we're speaking a lot about AI, it's just one of those technologies. There's about 10 or 12 of these technologies all emerging at the same time, and they're starting to converge with that. So that's what this book is about. But the twist that I have on it is that I'm what's called a conscious entrepreneur, or impact entrepreneur. I've created a 501c. I focus on helping underserved communities with education, and sure, there are multiple things that I do. And I wanted to write, and there's so many people that are afraid about AI, and I wanted to speak about, let's get up to speed, let's get upskill, let's learn, because you cannot avoid this. It's too far gone now. You cannot turn it back. The genie's out of the bottle. So let's take the moment and figure out how to use this technology for good. Because everyone is speaking about the end of the world kind of things, but the truth is, the thing that can save the world is AI, but people are not seeing that as yet. And so the book is really about, how can you use technology for good? It addresses the top 10 emergent technologies, what they are, why are they important now, something similar to what I would have written in that role that I mentioned earlier. But you don't have to be a $1 billion, $1 trillion company to understand that. You can just go and get the book. But further than that, in an effort to make this accessible to everyone, we've also created an AI chatbot brain that we trained with all the content of the book that we've published free. So anyone can just go and learn about this. And that's part of what we are focused on for Tech for Good, is how can we get the rest of the world up to speed so that especially emerging, underserved communities don't get left behind.
And I played with that chatbot earlier this morning. Can you reference where you can go to? What is it? Chatbot.com?
Yeah, chatbot.OceSha, OCESHA.com. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was And I like how you had it broken down in all the different segments of the book, like nanotechnology and the robotics and all the different areas. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. So one of the thing is, these technologies are all emerging, and they will affect all of us. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, and they will affect you depending on who knows what. And so it's in the best interest of everyone to really learn and upskill themselves so that not only are they not left behind, but they become the new leaders. And it doesn't matter where in the world that you are, you really need to know this stuff, right? You can, whether you go online and search, or you're using our chatbot to learn, or you buy a book or something, you really, really need to know this, because once you really have this knowledge, then a lot of the fear goes away. Because a lot of what we're seeing today in the market is just fear, fear, fear of AI, fear of this, fear of robots. But that doesn't make sense, right? Because the reality is that these are the things that will impact your lives more than anything else. And you're not positioned to be a leader in this, right? If you really, really take this serious. And so what one of my focuses is to help educate people, but you don't really even have to pay for it, because all of this knowledge, like literally the stuff that I have in this book, is something that it's just the largest companies in the world that can afford to hire teams that will do that kind of research and to inform them. And you're having it. You don't even have to buy the book. You can just go online, chatbot.OceSha.com, and just learn. And the AI bot will talk to you. Like, you can speak to it, it can speak to you. You know, it drills down deeply into AI and all the components, nanotechnology, robotics, all of these emerging technologies that you should know about that will impact you. It's just content available freely if you want to learn what these things mean.
Now, and I gotta say two quick things. One, the book's really great, and what I really like what you did is you make it easy for the everyday person to understand. And I like how in the book you gave like the examples. I forgot how you would say, but you're like, imagine you wake up, right? And you take people through the day. This is what your day is like with nanotechnology. This is what your day is like with quantum computing, which that's another one that I found really interesting. Again, these topics we talked about last time, I now, like, when you hear it, you just have a better understanding of what they are. And then I like how you said too, it's not just the AI, it's all these other technologies. And this may be I don't know if this analogy works, but AI is kind of like a new form of rocket fuel or something that's going to make these technologies take off even more. So I feel like, AI gets all the credit / blame when it's like, well, no, these other technologies have existed, but this is going to make them even better now with it.
The way that people should think about AI in respect to the different emerging technologies is, we've been researching these tech for decades now, many of them, some in a lesser time period. And we've been making a lot of progress with them. But for example, for robotics, we've been working robots for a long time. In fact, we kind of expected that robotics would have emerged before AI, but AI jumped ahead because of the research from DeepMinds and the way that OpenAI implemented it, and then they dropped GPT, all these things. So AI emerged faster. But the way that you should think about AI kind of like positioned itself because of natural language and the way it solved communication to become the brain of many of these technologies, right? So, for example, we had IoT before, and IoT, which is the Internet of Things, are really just devices that you may find in your home or places. And the way IoT worked before, it really collected data, and then you could shoot the data back up to a cloud someplace and process it and send it back. But now we're able to do edge computing, which is basically, for people that are familiar with that space, it's kind of like IoT with a brain, right? And so now, because of AI, IoT has a brain, and we're calling it edge computing. So this is now having a smart device, right? And the smart part of it tends to be in many cases AI. The same thing with robots. So we had robots we were building, but to be able to train robots was very difficult and very expensive. But when you add AI to robotics, it's kind of like giving the robots a brain, right? Because now the robot can now learn faster, first of all, and then it can make more logical and smarter decisions because of AI. Before that, not that it was impossible, it just took way, way longer. So AI accelerates basically everything, right? And that's one of the real power of AI is so we have all these technologies that we've been watching and studying slowly emerging. And now they're very, very fast emerging. And because they're emerging so fast, they become more useful now to society. And so what that really does now, it starts to allow people to think about how can they converge, right? And the way that I would explain conversions, so I'm a big superhero fan. Anyone that reads a book will be able to tell that. I've read comic books since, I think I learned how to read more from comic books more than anything else, growing up in Jamaica. Actually, the story is my first comic book I found walking home from school one day was half of it was torn up, literally on the street, right? And I picked it up and, these colorful, I think it was a Spider-Man comic book, and I read it and I got addicted. And it was like, I don't know, 5 cents or 10 cents at the time, was many, many, years ago. And then literally, instead of, I had just a little bit of lunch money on Fridays. We didn't have a lot of money in Jamaica. I would actually use my lunch money to buy comic books versus eating lunch those days, right? So it's very funny. So I grew up with comic books, and you learn all of these things through comic books that are becoming real right now. And when you think about convergence of technology, think about Superman, right? So Superman can fly. And that's a cool ability, but if all he could do was flying, he wouldn't really be as super, right? He could fly, but you could just shoot him out of the sky, right? So that's a cool thing, right? But he can fly really, really fast, right? Hypersonic, right? But if he could only fly fast and he wasn't invulnerable, he would just burn up with the heat. So the fact that he could fly and he's invulnerable and he can go super speed, those are like three different, superpowers. And those are like three different emergent technologies in our world coming together. But then he has more powers. He can shoot laser through his eyes, right? So that's like a fourth power. He can blow, cold through his mouth. That's like, so when you start stacking up these powers, that's what makes Superman, right? But then he has this invulnerability as well, kryptonite. So when we think about technologies, when we're thinking about AI, we're thinking about just one of the powers of Superman. When you start putting them together, that's when you get Superman. And so the technologies that we're going to be building in the future that we're starting now will be those conversions of different superpowers. And those superpowers are the emergent technologies. So when you're building something and you have AI and you stack that with blockchain and you stack that with, robotics or with, AR, VR or with quantum, when you start figuring out how to stack two or three or more emergent technologies, then the things that you're going to build are things that just doesn't exist today, right? And so that's really what is really relevant about this. It's not just AI. AI is really the accelerator. AI on top of almost anything becomes better, right? But when you think about it, you shouldn't just think about AI and one other technology. You really need to understand how all of these technologies work individually to be able to think of those new solutions that we're going to have in the future. And that's where you're going to see the greatest progress are going to be entrepreneurs and investors who really get that concept and start taking the time to figure out how to do this, as well as everyday people, to have those really new jobs that are going to show up that doesn't exist today. That's how you get those jobs, is to really upskill your knowledge.
Well, and one area that I thought was really interesting in the book that you said that this technology can help with is autism.
Yes.
Can you take us through that? Because I thought that, because I know some people who work in ABA space, working with kids with autism and things of that nature. So I thought that, can you explain that one?
Yeah, certainly. So I have a venture studio, and so what a venture studio is, we're a company that we focus on technology. Our focus is primarily, not exclusively, but primarily in the healthcare space. And so, as an impact investor and entrepreneur, I am very passionate about finding and building those future technologies that can make an impact, a positive impact on the world. And that's a part of the whole tech for good concept and the tech for good communities that we're building. And so for autism, autism is a massive, massive problem. It's a global problem. If you live in the USA and you believe your child may have a problem with speech communication, and you want to get that child diagnosed, for potentially autism, it takes an average about 18 months to 2 years to actually get that diagnostic, right? To be able to go in and see a speech therapist and have them look at your child and ask all these questions. And then in that session, or what it will take to diagnose a child, it takes on average about 5 or 6 hours to be able to go through that process. And then after you do that with a licensed speech therapist, then it takes another 1 or 2 weeks for them to actually give you a diagnostic, right? And that diagnosis will be based on their expertise. They've been doing this for a number of years, and the experience, et cetera. We're able to use AI to do all of that in about 3 to 4 minutes, right? So we can literally just take a speech sample from a child. It doesn't matter what language they speak, it doesn't matter where in the world that they are, and we can do a full real-time diagnostic for them, and we can very, very clearly tell and prove if the child is autistic or not. And so we're using different technologies, the ability to be able to read voice, to be able to analyze that voice, to be able to use, AI, RAG database to validate that. We have about 12 years of real life AI cases that we can validate exactly what we're doing. And what's really cool about that is it's not just like an American solution that you go down to your doctor and get that. We've built it so that you can diagnose children anywhere in the world in any language. So, for example, we're partnering with a group in Australia right now that they're focused on Aboriginal children, as well as a group that's focused on Native American children, as well as groups that are focused in LA on the variety of different languages and cultures that are spoken here. So, we've spoken with groups in the Middle East. So it doesn't really matter what your language is. It doesn't matter what your culture is. It doesn't matter where in the world that you are, because the entire platform is browser based. So many of the different current autism diagnostic tools, you have to actually go to an office someplace. And then you need to have that speech therapist that's there, and you have to go through all of the stuff. But if you have an autistic child, one of the things that you'll see, many of them, just to get them out of the house, to get them in the car, to get them in the clinic, to get them to do what you want to do when you're in the clinic, and to get them from under the table. I mean, these are real challenges that parents have with autistic children. So to be able to go ahead and have that diagnostic from home, that's something that just really, really doesn't exist today and in any language. So we've built that. Our company for this is Autism Inventory, and that's one of our portfolio within our venture studio. We're doing the same thing with sleeping disorders that children have as well. And we have other projects, which I can't speak about right now, that we're working on to be able to solve these kinds of healthcare issues. So part of our thesis is that one of the earliest segments that will benefit from AI and emergent technology will be healthcare. We'll be able to solve problems that we can't even find, we would not think possible just a few years ago using AI.
And it's funny you bring that up because from our last conversation, I remember when you were explaining the possibilities of the healthcare side, that really opened my mind. And then reading in your book, I know we're going to get into nanotechnology and all that. That really, because that to me is the undeniable positive of AI. Like, who doesn't want to live longer? Like,
Yeah.
who doesn't want to fix things and prevent disease and help people live longer and live healthier? So that to me, so that's very. How did you even come across to look into the autism? Like, was it
Sure.
accidental, or was it intentional? Or?
It was from a conversation from someone that is a speech therapist. He's been a speech therapist for about 15 years, and he has a partner, and she's been a speech therapist for about 25 years. And they're Lois Brady and Matthew Gogamus, and so they have their own practice. It's called eye therapy. And so they're literally experts, speech therapists. Some of the smartest people I've ever met know more about speech therapy than anyone that I've ever met, and about autism and autistic children. And they were trying to figure out, is it possible to use AI to solve that, to basically capture what they have in their head and productize it. And so it went from a conversation to, oh, is this what you guys are trying to do? Whereas I sent them some information like, oh, wow, yeah, I mean, can we, yeah. So it came from that. And then we created a relationship that would work together in solving that problem. We were able to build it, successfully test it, and we're now ready to put it to market. We have a couple of versions. One is for clinicians that will do the full diagnostics of the software, and where they can use it with their patients, but we need to complete our FDA approvals for that. So we're going through that process now. We have another version that is specifically for parents. So we're building a community of parents that are interested in this and who would benefit from this, and that they can use it directly themselves to get more information about the condition of their child or children from regarding speech. And so this we're releasing in about a couple of weeks, actually, that will be available to parents that have some, concerns about their child, speech or communication progress. And if they want to get some immediate answers versus waiting 12 months to do so, they'll just be able to go online, which the product would be at autisminventory.com. They'll be able to just go online and either answer some questionnaires, which it will be free, or if they want to have more detailed diagnostics, well, we can't say diagnostic because for that version of it, it's more education about the child. They'll be able to upload in a voice sample of their child, and we'll go ahead through the same rigor that we go through from a diagnostic point of view, and we'll be able to give them some information that would be useful and valuable to tell exactly where their child is from a communication point of view, as well as information regarding how they can help their child from home without even having to go someplace for that.
And that's just one area.
Yeah.
Imagine all the other areas that are out there
Yeah.
that this technology can be applied and start helping people right away.
Yeah, we're looking at a variety of different use cases for that. We're focused on autism. They're really, I mean, that when we speak about AI, one of the main things is there always this dystopian end of the world thing, and not that that's not a possibility, and I can tell you how it get one direction or another. There's this utopian thing as well. It's probably going to be someplace in the middle, and this is why it's important today to have these kind of discussions. It's important for why we're focused on tech for good because we want to help to determine which direction the world goes. And we can. Today we can. Maybe 5 or 10 years from now, it'll be too late. And that's why we're really trying to galvanize the world to start taking this more serious and start to think about what can we do to leverage this new thing that we're building towards helping humanity more than destroying it.
Well, you lead me right into the next question because you often say upskill or die.
Yes,
Which is, it can be dramatic, but what is your theory behind that? And what are people getting wrong about this emerging AI area? I think we've already covered some of it, but could you take us through that?
Yeah, I think one of the things happen to be people, when they hear AI, their brains shut down because they think it's too difficult or it's too complicated. Or they jump from what they've seen in the news. Oh my God, the robots are going to take over. AI is going to take over and kill us, right? And I think that approach is bad. It's bad for you individually if you're thinking that. It's bad if you're shutting down. The reality is that you cannot avoid it. It's too far now, right? And there's no, if you're waiting for it to get turned back, it's not going to happen. There's too much at stake right now. When people think about you're going to lose your jobs, you know what? If you think about the jobs before the year 2000, many of them don't exist anymore because of the internet, right? And so everyone had to figure out how to integrate the web and internet and then mobile that came from that into their day-to-day life. And it's going to be something like that. You have to kind of like get into it. So people that don't use ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or something else, if you're not doing that day to day, you're really missing out because you're going to have to really interact. If you're thinking it's difficult, it's not difficult. So part of it is what exactly do we have? And I'm going to take 2 minutes to do like a quick AI one-on-one lessons, right? AI 101. So what is AI, right? As we know it today, okay? What tech companies did, they took what you were already interacting with, which is all this data, available data in the internet. So you would go to Google and you would search and you would go ahead and use that data. All they did was they went and scraped and got all of the available public data that's online or that's in books or anywhere that they could get it, okay? And they went ahead and used that to train AI, okay, using something called transformers, right? And the end result of that is literally, think of it as just a big AI brain with all the data everywhere. So if there was data about how to write code, which there was as GitHub, then you can go ahead and inquiry in with ChatGPT or one of the others, and it will tell you information about how to fix your code. If you want to learn something about, checking a legal document, you can go ahead and upload it and ask the questions, right? If you want to learn about the 5th president or the 10th president, why? It's not because AI is really smart. It's because it already has all the data, all this data already existed out there. And all it really did, it just sucked in all that data, and then it used statistical method to say, what is the most likely probability that this is what this person's asking about, right? And so there's a technical difference that Google, when you do that, it will search and try to do a keyword match, these 2 words, and then say, okay, here's like 50,000 things that could be it, right? And what AI does, it's looking really at the same data, maybe a bit more, but it's looking at, think of it as the same data, and it's saying statistically, this is what you're asking for. And because I think this is what you're asking for, let me surround it with all the data. That's really all it's doing, okay? So is it difficult for you to use AI? No, it's easier. And here's lesson number 2 is natural language. So what you and I are speaking right now, Sam, is what we call English, right? It's a natural language for us. If we're speaking Spanish, that would be our natural language. If we're speaking French, that would be our natural language, right? So what AI is really good at is now, instead of you having to go to a developer, and the developer who is trained to communicate in computer language, the developer, you don't need the developer to talk to the AI or the computer for you anymore, because it understands you now, because it understands natural language. It doesn't just understand computer language, it understands natural language now, which is English or Spanish or French or German or whatever your natural language is. And that's a game changer, because now anything that you want, right, to find out, you just go and type it in, and that's what natural language is. When people talk about natural language processing and all these things, that's all it means. It's AI understands English, right? Or whatever your natural language is, right? But the next step people want to do that they're missing is they need to learn one more thing, right? To really, really use AI well. And that's called prompt engineering. Okay, so when you type natural language, it's what we call a prompt. Okay, but I just mentioned that AI is statistically, right, trying to figure out what the right answer is. And if you think it's the right answer, oh yeah, here it is, and it communicates very confidently that it's the right answer, but it's kind of guessing, okay? It's a guess answer. So that's called hallucination when it's wrong, okay? So we need to learn how to not have hallucination, or to minimize the potential of hallucination. And that's why you go and learn more about prompt engineering. And there are all kinds of things online that you can learn how to do that better. It's about grounding it in truth. There's a bit more detail with that. So what I ask people to do, just start using ChatGPT or whichever one of those models you want to use. Just typing your natural language. Hey, what should I do today? It will tell you. Hey, is this contract correct? It will tell you. Hey, I want to learn how to write a patent. It will tell you, right? Just the way that you would talk to a friend or a counselor or anyone else. That's really all you have to do. But the thing is, if you do not really understand enough about prompt engineering, right, it's always guessing no matter what. It's always a statistical response to your question, right? And it will always answer confidently. And once you kind of learn more by using it, okay, then you'll be able to start getting correct answers, okay? And so that's really the main thing, right? The difference now is that you really, to get the responses that you want, you don't have to go to Google and get the 50,000 possible responses. All it does, it goes ahead and get all of that. It knows how to tie all of those information together that doesn't seem to be connected or related. And it would just kind of say, I think this is the most likely correct response. And many times it'll be right. Sometimes it will not be right, because that's hallucination. But the more you learn about prompt engineering, the more you don't have to worry about hallucination as much. And so we're building more and more tools, like the AI brain tool that we built that we've trained our book with, right? There's really no hallucination, because we've trained that with this specific information with it. And so it's not going to hallucinate, because it knows exactly what it is it's operating on. And so as we build more and more technologies, which is part of what we do, we're building technologies all the time for partners and clients, but we're not, they don't have to worry about hallucination, because we're building all the prompt engineering, we've done all the natural languages, and we've done all the training to make sure that the responses are correct. But you can start doing that yourself with just a regular ChatGPT or different models.
Okay, I'm hoping this time in the conversation, I'm actually able to play a little tennis back and forth with you, because I understand a little more than what I did a year ago. So if I'm understanding correctly, when you're talking the AI brain and the chatbots, you're feeding it the information you want it to have, the way you talk, the way you speak, whatever your company's about.
Right.
So when someone's interacting with it, it's going to be a representation of you or the company.
Yes.
And I've talked to some other people, they're developing their own chat GPT, if you will, or chatbots, where they're like, yeah, I'm feeding it everything. I'm telling it this is what I believe. This is all my links, blah, blah, blah. And then on their website, people can interact with the AI version of them.
Right.
Is that really what's happening, or how people can make their own AI brain? I mean, really, you're just programming it?
Yeah. So there are a couple of points to that answer. So yeah, if you're the more you use like ChatGPT, the more it will become familiar with you and your day to day and all of these things, right? So that's one way to do it, and I recommend everyone just to go ahead and do that. If you're a business, it's a little bit different, right? If you're a business, you want to really train your own AI model, right? And then you want to be able to have tools that would help you with your business. So for example, we can train an AI model with our company, all the business, which we are right now. Everything for OceSha, what do we do? What do we not do? What are the services we provide? All of these kinds of things. And then we just make it available to our customers. And so our customers can now, at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ask the questions. They're going to always get the correct answer, not made up answer. What's different between doing it this way than the way that most people are doing it today, actually? It's not just uploading a bunch of FAQs, right? Because if you upload just a bunch of FAQs and you don't address that one thing, it's going to probably just hallucinate and think that and just make up something. But if you're really training it with all this information from within your company, then it will know how to statistically get the right information that you have trained it with to be able to respond to those questions. Additionally, if you train it with information about your products and your services, you can turn that same data set that you've trained it with into a salesperson as well. So it can now start suggesting products and services for you. Or you can just have, if you have funneling, if you have automation, you can incorporate that. So if you go to our chatbot, we'll have different links that if you want to learn more about this, you can click that, which goes into sales funnels, right? So this changes everything with marketing and sales as well. So you can actually train a chatbot into becoming more of a sales agent, right? Or an agentic AI, which is a part of what we're doing as well, that it can actually help the customer with a variety of things, even things that you haven't thought about from an FAQ point of view. And it can help you to sell your products. It can help you to get leads into your funnels, and it can even help you with nurturing your potential customers and help you to close deals. So that's where marketing is today, and where you'll see more and more of that, a combination of AI and automation. And that's really so like if you now are a solopreneur, right? You just have your company, you don't have tons of money for marketing and to hire a bunch of people, but you want to have the benefit of that, then you'll be able to use these kinds of systems and processes to do that. And that's one of the services we offer, by the way.
So, and just to make sure I'm on the same page, like when I go to a website and then immediately it pops up, "Hi, I'm John," or "Hi, I'm Susie, your assistant," or whatever. That's a chatbot, or
Yes. Yeah.
that's in okay. I just
Yeah.
want
Yeah. So not all are the same. So yes,
Okay.
I'd say 90 whatever percentage of them still are behind the scenes is like 50 FAQs or 20 FAQs or something. And so these are the things that you can think about as potential questions, right? And that's what they will do is, if it doesn't know how to answer a question because you didn't give it that question and answer, it will reroute to a person. Okay. And so you have that, but you still need a human being behind the scenes. So it may take care of X amount of percentage of your questions, but then the ones that you didn't think of in FAQ, it'll reroute. But if you train it on your business data, not just a bunch of FAQ, it will be able to handle, because it will be able to understand how your business work and how your business perform, and it will be able to actually determine the best response for you, not just because of a list of questions, but because of its understanding of your business.
Okay. No, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz pulling a little like now don't fully understand it still, but I get the
Yeah.
theory now of
Well,
how it works.
let's put it this way. Like if I hire you as a customer support person, I'm going to train you on, you have all these documents, you watch a bunch of videos, all of this information, you go through some, so I'm going to take some time to train you so that you're very knowledgeable about the business, right? So that any questions somebody call or email, then, even if there's a specific thing that you weren't trained on, you'll be able to determine what it is based on your knowledge of the business, right? So that's the difference, right? We can train AI the way that we're training people now. And so we're doing multimodal training. And what that really means is different modality, meaning audio and video and text, chat, all of these things, right? That I would use to train a human being, all the same content I would use to train a human being, okay? I'm going to go ahead and use that to train an AI agent, right? And that's kind of like the AI brain. And then we'll have agentic features so that it can do things that you would do as a human being. And so the main difference is that the way that we've been doing it, bunch of FAQs and the little pop-up thing, and it can, depending on how good your FAQs are, it's the more questions it can answer. The different approach now, it's not just a bunch of FAQs. Even the FAQs could be a part of the data that we're training it with. Just think of the same level of training that you would do to a human being. You can do that same level of training to your AI. Your AI will get it, it will understand it, and it'll be able to do a similar response as what a human being will do.
And that's why I think some people are worried about jobs.
Yes, yes.
I don't mean to make light
Yeah.
of it, but like you said, having that one human to look over it, or it is, I mean, there's no doubt that this is going to eliminate jobs. It's going to create jobs, but it's also going to eliminate jobs. And I guess I might as well just ask this now. What's your, I heard something interesting on another podcast, and because the person, and I'm paraphrasing all of it, but they said to the person, well, what's the difference between back when there was nothing but horses for transportation, then boom, there were cars.
Right.
And the good person's like, okay, but they said the difference is the speed and scale and the vast variety of industries this is all going to hit at once. So
Yeah.
what's your take on the people out there that are worried about their job? Like, or am I going to have a job?
Yeah, it's a real concern, and they should be concerned because it's a real concern, right? If you go by the statistics, and I don't really remember the numbers actually, it's in the book, I don't remember exactly, but the expected net difference, I think it's one of the world organizations, is that there'll be a positive difference in more jobs created. But the way that you should think about this is really this. A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the future. But a lot of jobs that you can't even conceive of today will exist in the future, right? And if you use a horse and carriage kind of example that you just used, right? It's true. How many people are riding horses to go deliver a message, right? Or how many people are riding horses to go do whatever, right? Or how many of these buggies, the people that had to create those buggy carts, right? No one's doing it anymore, okay? But you probably have 10 times the amount of jobs in the auto industry, maybe 100 times, maybe, 1,000 times, right? So that's what's going to happen. But at that time of transformation, the people that were doing those kind of laborious jobs, right, had to figure out, how do I continue to make a living and feed my family? And many of them, I can't speak confidently about what they all did, but certainly a new industry opened up. And that new industry, I think people that saw those opportunities, pursued those opportunities, upskilled themselves to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. The ones that did this earlier probably benefited more than the ones that did it later. Entire industries, products, services were created from that that didn't exist before. And so if you look at the multitude of jobs and opportunities that came from that versus what was available before that, you'll see a significant difference. And if you look at the quality of life, from those jobs versus new jobs, it's different as well. But, in the middle of that, you will also have this, big change. You had the Industrial Revolution, and then there are people that were bad actors, and there are people that were, you know, um, abusing, work hours of people and bad conditions and all of these things, right? Will that happen again? I don't really know. For different massive shifts like that, it doesn't always happen, doesn't always have to happen. It really determines. We are the ones that really determine that, right? So, but the reality is, yes, I think most people expect that a lot of the jobs that are, and when people say only this kind of job, only that kind of job, that's most likely not true. It's going to be a wide range. If you're doing some kind of knowledge work, it may be AI kinds of stuff that will impact it. If you're doing some physical labor, it'll probably be robotics that will impact it, right? So I don't, I think people sometimes would like to hear, well, you're safe here. I don't know if there's a safe anywhere, right? But I do believe that, and I don't believe that there is we don't need humans anymore. I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that if you're still thinking about the jobs that we're comfortable with today, and to keep those jobs, I don't really believe it's going to be like that. I think you'll need to learn different skills to have the value economic to be able to continue to live a high standard of living and potentially even higher than today.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Sam Dever podcast. I hope you're enjoying the show. I just wanted to take a quick minute to tell you about my new project called Produce Your Passion. Produce Your Passion is a creative platform for people to overcome obstacles and bring their visions to life and become their most authentic selves. We have a brand new website. It's produceyourpassion.com, and there you will find coaching services. You will find another podcast called Produce Your Passion. I wrote a book. You can download it for free, or you can get it on Amazon. We have an online store where you can get Produce Your Passion gear and a whole lot more. Check it out, produceyourpassion.com. Now, back to the podcast. Leads me right to what they were saying. One of the examples they gave, well, the highest paid salary position in the United States is an anesthesiologist.
Mm-hmm.
Go to school, do this, you're going to make $500,000 a year.
Okay.
But they're like, now, there may be a world where AI and technology is able to do that job of anesthesiology, and maybe you have maybe one or two people overseeing that over a vast amount, but you don't need as many anesthesiologists anymore.
Yeah.
So to your point of like what we conceive is the thing may be completely irrelevant, but we also don't know there's going to be a whole bunch of new relevant jobs that we don't even know what they are yet.
Yeah, but we know some of them. So I think if you think of, and this is where I know most people headspace is, and it makes sense, right? You've been doing the job for 20 years, and oh my God, it may not be there anymore, right? And that's probably true, right? But the jobs that will be there, it's very hard to conceive, right? And we can just play with some of them, right? You mind if we get into the nanotech space?
Oh,
okay.
Please do.
Okay, because it's easier for me to explain if I'm just using some real use cases. Okay, so we're looking at the world when we talk about the subject matter as utopia or dystopia. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And I'll use some of the tech for good examples that I think are cool. Human beings have been fighting each other since the beginning of time for resources. Okay, we'll go and kill everyone so we can have their water hole, right? Or so we can have the food source, right? Or so we can we take for the survival of our tribe, right? and if that means that we destroy the other tribe, that's just been humanity and the way that we are. And because we've always had this concept of limited resources, whether truth or not, you can have different philosophical discussion about that, but it is. And so we now live in a world that a few parts of the world does super well, like the USA, most of Europe, Japan, etc., and the rest of the world do very poorly, right? And they do very poorly because in most cases we've literally sucked out a lot of the resources from these countries, and we now have them here that we take advantage of, right? And so in many countries, we have all this pollution. People don't even have clean water. People are dying, I think like something like 1 million people or more per year just from bad water. And so what do you do with that? And how does tech help with that? How does AI help with that? And this is when we start looking at some of the emergent technologies and some of the things we kind of alluded to earlier. So first of all, what is nanotechnology, right? So nanotechnology is just one of the emerging technologies, and that AI helps to amplify it. And so nanotechnology is really kind of like, think of really small microchips, kind of. And I use the word microchips, loosely, but it's easiest way I can explain it. But it's so small, right, that if you think of like the book and you think of just like the paper, how thin it is, or your hair, how thin it is, right? Nanotech is about, I think, like 100,000 times smaller than that, right? And so you need to there's an entire industry around building up around that how can you use that to start building new stuff, okay? And new stuff meaning new materials for like clothes, right? We can build new, layers of technology. So instead of having to go outside and climb the building and wash the windows, right? That layer of technology will self-clean. We can start building stuff that we can use for medicine that we can, use it as a delivery system for medicine, inject it. And for example, I'm diabetic and I have to worry about my sugar all the time. I get extremely frustrated because I have to keep on pricking my fingers. I'm type 2 and put it into this thing, and it just feels like so archaic, right? For me. And then if you're type 1 diabetic, there's a thing you can put on your arm and at least it sends some data, to your phone and all these things. I can't get that because FDA didn't approve it or something like that. So I'm really annoyed. But as we get further in technology, using nanotechnology, we'll be able to go ahead and create ways to deliver that, insulin or medicine that I would need, literally shoot it into my arm, and I don't have to worry about it. Now we have a new delivery system to help me as a diabetic. If you have cancer, you can do the same thing. It can go in and fix it, literally, right? It will be able to identify those cells and go in and fix it. We're using that kind of technology with other technology for synthetic, biology as well, that we can, instead of killing animals, we can literally create the DNA that's needed for those animals. And why do I use these two examples especially? With a combination of nanotech and synthetic biology, and even the ability to use nanotechnology for what do you call to capture the heat, solar energy. Thank you. Blank there. We can now solve water problems globally, right? Literally, this is being in experimental use in different cases where that's still being worked on. So let's say I'm in Africa and I'm in a village and I don't I can't drink clean water. People have to walk, for an hour, hours, and even then the water isn't clean to bring back stuff. I can literally have a backpack, something maybe as small as my book, and I can filter the water using nanotech, and all of a sudden I have clean water. In most countries you have, at least bordering countries, you have oceans, right? I can now use nanotechnology to literally, I think the phrase is desalitize it, to really clean the salt from that, and all of a sudden I can drink the entire ocean, right? I can clean the ocean. This is the kind of things that you can do with AI, and especially when you converge AI with nanotechnology, and where that also helps with, solar energy. So we can now capture more energy in smaller batteries than we ever could. So, instead of going and kill that other tribe for their water, we can have an unlimited amount of water now, right? We don't have to kill that tribe for it anymore. Instead of going ahead and killing that tribe for their animals for food, we can actually grow it. And it's not some nasty thing. And we're not talking about experimenting on living creature. We actually have the ability, because we have their DNA, to grow from scratch, right? So we have this technology today at a very early stage. Okay, where's the future going? Where are the jobs, right? You need to go figure out how to do that. Okay, I'm sorry, like, you're getting the mail at the office, you go learn how to do some of that stuff. You need to go figure out that these are things that are already being developed, but they're in early stage. If you're an entrepreneur, you should go figure out, how can I use that to build a company? If you're an investor, you should go figure out where these companies are and where these investors are, and I mean, where these entrepreneurs are, and fund them so you can get the next $1 billion that you're trying to do for your fund, right? So these are technologies that are there that will make a significant difference in humanity. Imagine in a few years from now, you don't have cancer because we figured out how to use AI and nanotechnology and synthetic biology to be able to pinpoint any cancer someone has, and to be able to literally fix it. Like, not just tell you about it, but literally fix it in real time. Imagine you can do that with almost any disease. This is where all of this stuff is going. This is why emergent technologies are important, because before that, you couldn't do it, right? This is what solved COVID. COVID was literally, if you imagine, I use the example of HIV. It took about 30 years for us to figure that thing out. Like, men our age grew up being terrified of what you did, right? All these years. And now, because of, AI's ability to filter through, to say these are the potential issues and these are the potential problems, and, RNA and synthetic biology and all of these different technologies, we're able to solve, before, like, solving a virus problem was somewhere between, I think, 20 years on average, people assumed it would be. We solved COVID in, I don't know, 8 months or 12 months or something like that, because of AI, because of RNA, because of synthetic biology, because of our understanding. And our understanding still is very, very basic. We're just getting there, right? But the rate of growth is very, very fast. And what drives that more than anything else is AI, but not AI by itself. It's AI with all of these things. So my main point is that, there's so many things that we don't know, that where the jobs are going to come from today, but we have strong clues, and we have some of the basics, right? And these are the things that, if you're in college, you need to be looking at these things right now, because they are your future. The jobs today that you're going after are probably not going to be your future, right? The future jobs are there. You need to be understanding this stuff and start learning. A lot of this is online. Some of it is free. Universities are starting to get up to speed, but they're always too far behind. But you should still learn at least the core components of these things, but you need to go and learn on your own as well, wherever you can find the information.
Yeah, and that's what your book's Tech for Good's really good about, is kind of shining a light on, hey, you may want to look over here at nanotechnology, over at robotics, over at quantum computing, because like you said, that's where it's going to be. And so I know we mentioned ChatGPT earlier. Are there any other AI tools people should be using right now that are underrated or they're not talking enough about that could be improving their everyday life?
Yeah, totally. Like especially if you're a business. So for our company, I use really I can't think of one day that I don't use AI for what I'm doing. So for example, um, for any kind of presentation, right? I want to do a presentation, whether it's to create an investor deck or do a marketing presentation or anything. I would go to ChatGPT, or you could use any of the other models. I would go ahead and train it, meaning giving it whatever relevant information it needs. I would go through and sort through it and keep on asking it to adjust. Again, learn, you know natural language. Just think of it as if you're speaking to somebody and you're trying to get to the right results, right? So you keep on interacting with ChatGPT. And you should learn a little bit about prompt engineering. That's going to be very helpful. And at some point, you'll be able to get to the result. ChatGPT is like, okay, da 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 da. You're like, yeah. This is what I want, right? So it's a starting place for information. ChatGPT is really, really good. There's Claude and there's Gemini. They're all really good. All the models, some people prefer one or the other for one reason or the other. They're all trained on the same basic information, but some excel on other stuff, and you can always find online which one does what better, or just ask ChatGPT. It will tell you the truth for the most part. Okay. But once you kind of get the core stuff like a document, what I do a lot, I use Gamma, right? So Gamma is a really, really cool tool that you can just copy and paste the information from ChatGPT, or you can just export it, say just create a PDF or create a Word document or create a PowerPoint. It will just export it into a file for you and probably save it into your folder. What's the export folder? Anyway, on your
Documents or
no, not documents.
downloads.
Downloads. Thank you.
Okay.
So it'll export it into your downloads folder. You go grab it. You go to Gamma. It's GAMMA dot. It could be .com, but it could be something else that I don't remember. Look it up. And so if I want to create like just a landing page for something I'm doing, I'll just sort out all the information, copy and paste, or upload the exported file into Gamma, and click a couple buttons, and within a couple minutes, I have the most beautiful website page ever. I can do the same thing and ask it to create a presentation document. And so what Gamma does, so what ChatGPT does, it will sort out and help you figure out all the details of everything that you want. And what Gamma does, it makes it pretty, right? So instead of you having a basic PDF that you can just get from ChatGPT, you can take that same information, put it in Gamma, and you get like something that you paid like the highest paid marketing company to do. And it does it for you like within a minute. And then you can go ahead and edit it in any way that you want to. So Gamma is a good tool that I use for different things. I like also, I'm going to say pronounce it wrong, but Voir. It's a new Google video creation tool. And so you also have Sora from OpenAI, ChatGPT, and they can both do image to short video clips. But what Google just released for is so much cooler if you just want to create a video from nowhere and not even have an image. And so you can just create a prompt, again, go figure out prompt engineering, and you can create an entire scene from that, like within like seconds, right?
Social media blew up when they started releasing all those. Yeah.
It's so incredible. It's just really, really cool. So I use that for different things. If I sometimes you'll see that I'll post something animated or something like that. I probably use that. You can, do stuff as well with Sora, 11 Labs as well. So there are different tools like that you can use. You can take videos and chop them up. There are a few tools that you can use for that and create viral videos. We use, I'll think of it in a minute. So we use a tool for that. You can use AI to do editing. So if you want to edit like this podcast, we use Riverside to do that. And so what's cool about that is I'm terrible at editing. I know nothing about editing, but what it does is it transcribe everything and it just gives you a really easy text editor to edit your video for you. And it can do that. Even myself can do that. And so to video editing, that was something that you need a lot of skills to do, and where to chop and where to put things and all that. They're using AI to do that now, and that's really, really cool. There's like a multitude of things, and I think people should really, you can easily go to just ChatGPT and say, what are some of the top AI tools I should be using for my business today? Or I want to do this, what are the best tools to use? And it will tell you. So this is just one of the ways that you should also just use ChatGPT, ask it to recommend products and services, and it will do a really good job of pointing you to the right ones.
So that's how I see you posting so many clips on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I can take, and people should do this. And so we do a lot. We help companies with marketing and stuff like that. And so we use, we use some of these tools we build ourselves, but some of these tools that we just use externally. But if you have a podcast, you can just grab the podcast and just create like tons of video clips from it, and just schedule the clips for posting. So, for example, I'm going to be on holiday next week. I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. I'll be in France, hanging out, partying. And every couple of days, you'll just see more posts coming from me for all of these things. And I probably won't look at it unless I need to go respond to someone. But I'm not sitting there every day posting things, right? We're using AI and we're using automation, and it's literally building our brand, building our value, doing all of these things. And, it's just a matter of either you taking the time to do it, or you use, an agency or someone to be able to do that. But a lot of these things can be automated right now. And so we do that for ourselves, but we do that for clients as well that want our help with that.
And so now that we've gotten a pretty good overview and gotten in depth here, what's if someone's watching or listening to this right now and they're like, okay, I'm ready to jump into AI. What would you want people to know, or you wish everyone knew before using AI?
I think the main thing is that stop thinking about it as the end of the world, right? That's the main thing. The second thing is it's not magic, it's just technology. The third thing is it's not really smart. It's just statistically very accurate with what it does. And to make it even more accurate, you should really take a moment to learn something about creating really better prompts. And there's a lot of free information online. Or take a class from someone. We offer that as well, but we don't do mass class. Um, we just do personalized stuff, literally. But you can find free things online as well to help you. But I think the main thing is for people to stop thinking about the end of the world, for people to stop thinking or wishing that things won't change, and for people to realize that where AI is today, it's really, think of all the data that you find in Google. They just organize it better and they just make it more easily accessible. And at the end of the day, it's just really technology, and it's really, really not complicated. And the same way you're speaking to me, it's the same way you should speak to ChatGPT or anything else. And if you start doing it that way and you start thinking of it as just your assistant, you'll be able to get a lot more value out of it.
Okay, so if someone's like, all right, I'm ready to learn, how can they, in 0 to 6 months, how can they really get a handle on AI? Like, what are the first few steps that they should do?
Yeah, I think really easy. I think what is your business, or what are you where are you trying to go with that? I think that would be the first thing you should really kind of understand. Pick a use case that's important to you, and then every day you just spend a little bit of time trying to use AI to work on that. So, I have a tech company and I have lawyers. Instead of paying for lawyers, oh, I wonder if I can write a contract with that. Okay, I have to, I'm sending emails. I write an email. I wonder if I got the right tone for that. Oh, let's just ChatGPT for it to kind of like clean that up for me. I have presentations. Oh, what can I use to create a better presentation, for myself? So what are all the things that I do from a day-to-day point of view? And just kind of like go, and if you don't know what it is, just kind of like ask the question for that. And I think once you get past that initial, discomfort or fear about what you can do, then you'll start seeing that you become really productive with that. And for things that you don't know, one of the really cool things is you'd have to go and spend all this time Googling around to try to figure it out. Don't go to Google. Anything that really, sorry, Google, love you guys. But any question that you can ask Google right now, or that you would go to Google today, just say, oh, let me go to ChatGPT, really, or any of the models, Gemini, whatever, it doesn't matter. Gemini is Google, but it's more intelligent, right? So go to ChatGPT, go to Gemini, go to Claude, go to one of those, and just pick one, right? Some people use all of them at the same time. I don't. So just pick one, start using it for your day-to-day thing. And the more you use it, the more it will get familiar with your stuff. So I give an example. If I want to create something about my business now, I'll just say it, and it already knows from the history of things that I've been doing. It will know enough, right? So, and if it doesn't remember, because it has what's called, limited memory, right? If it doesn't remember, I will just go ahead and ask it to go back and look at the past. Oh, go back and reference when we spoke about blah, blah, blah. Oh, yes, I remember now, da, da, da. So normally it will try to operate in just that chat you have, or maybe it'll go a little bit behind, but you can always ask it to go back, or you can just go back to a previous chat and interact with it directly there. So one of the little tricks for ChatGPT is it will, when you do a chat, it will give it a default name. And many times the default name won't mean anything to you. You should just go back. You can just rename it. There's a little three dot, you click it and you just rename it. So in the future, if you're like, oh man, in that chat, I was doing some research for Sam Deaver. I don't remember what I did. You can, I would have just named it Sam Deaver. I'll go back and find it, right? And so you just want to have little things like that, but you'll kind of learn as you go along. It's not perfect by far at this point, but and it will get better. Like the thing is, we have to think about AI today as day one, right? It really is day one, right? So it's very clunky, like anything else. If you've ever been involved in a software project, the first version is always sucky, right? And so this was at that stage a year ago. It's become better, but it's still really at the beginning. It will be much, much better as it goes along. And the earlier you can get familiar and comfortable with it, then the better off you are. And the one thing, last point I'll make there is that if someone is thinking about their interview, about a job, the real thing you should think about is that the next job you go to apply for, think of it that, do you want to be the only person being interviewed that doesn't know how to answer that question about that they will ask, tell me your experience with AI? Because everyone will ask that, right? And if you're the one person that didn't even make the effort that you can answer that question, you're no value. Like, I would not hire someone today that does not know how to use AI. There's no chance in hell, because I'm like, why? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you? It's free. You can't say there's a cost factor, right? And I said that I did a talk at I think it was Santa Monica College a few months ago, and we had some regular corporate guys up there as well. And someone asked me about that. It was a hiring related question, and I said, if any of you came to for a job that I posted and you've not used AI, I guarantee you would never get a job. Absolutely guarantee. And the person that got the job would be the person that used AI the most, meaning that I can give that person more things to do, and I would know that they would do it more efficiently, right? So you don't have to be a tech person unless that's what the job, but you have to learn how to be more efficient. And for me, AI means that you're more efficient, and therefore, instead of you taking 10 hours to do one thing, you can do 10 things in those 10 hours. And that's the way companies will make those decisions about you.
Interesting. And I'm also interested if this will go on YouTube, and wonder if Google will flag us and hurt the SEO now that we have a right or starting a beef.
Not starting.
I'm just kidding.
I built a thing a couple of years ago, and I talked to a guy in Google, and I think it was like, wow, that's awesome. I didn't know you could do that, right? And I'm like, you guys need to get it. So I love Google. They're one of the most innovative companies anywhere. But they've really dropped the ball a few times with what they're doing. I think they have so many things that they're doing. But I can see just just this year, they're putting a lot of resources towards this thing. I think before it was just like a plaything. And now, because of OpenAI, they've taken it very, very serious. So I think we should expect to see a lot of really, really good innovation coming out of Google over the next few months as well.
Absolutely. And we're getting closer to the end here, and I had a couple more questions for you. I know we already talked about the job loss factor. Aside from that, are there any other potentially negative outcomes that we need to be on the lookout for, and how can we prevent all of it from happening?
That's a great question. And that's one of the things we try to tackle with, the whole tech for good stuff. So, so the main thing for tech for good is that um, we're at that point now that we need to be having those discussions and take it serious, because at the end of the day, we're building this. It's human. We're human, and we're building it with our human biases. And I think we need to really stop and think about what we're building, why we're building, and how to make sure that we have control of it. So there are really two fair scenarios. I mean, people go all over the place with it, right? But there are really two scenarios, right? Scenario number one, we build something and we have all the controls, and we have bad actors that do something with it, right? And so this is why cybersecurity is super important today. We're using cybersecurity more to protect us from humans that would use technology to do some abuse. And scenario number two, we built something that we didn't take enough time to protect ourselves, right? Which is the negative scenario most people are talking about. And we need to really be serious about those conversations right now, to make sure that what we're building, we're considerate about biases, we're considerate about impact, we're considerate about not abusing other cultures and society as a part of that. We're considerate about, we want to have a positive impact for everyone, right? So one of my concerns personally is that I don't want the USA to make all those decisions. I absolutely don't. I want there to be more of a global input towards us, and then each society to be left alone to build what they want. Because one of the big challenges in the world right now, the USA and Europe, more USA than Europe, we've decided everything that we look at in the modern world for the most part right now. We don't hear from Africa. We don't hear from India. We don't hear from South America. We don't hear from the Middle East in the things that we're using day to day. I would like to know what Africa would build. I'd like to know what the Caribbean would build, right? The reality is that what's really different about AI is that you don't need to leave your country and come to the USA to study AI, right? If you look in Silicon Valley, most of the CEOs are from India. Okay, so these folks had to leave, or their parents, right, to look for this better life, and so their country miss out from that talent, and we benefit from it, so that's cool. But it's the same for most countries in the world. But and most countries look towards the USA for aid and support. But we now have the tools. I would prefer that we focus on building stuff that some kid in Africa can learn more about these technologies, and that's part of what we're focusing on Tech for Good. So they can learn how to build the next nanotechnology. They can learn how to use edge to build stuff. They can learn how to build stuff for their own clean water. They can learn how to build their own economies, right? They can learn how to do all that without, needing funds or support or being controlled by the USA or Europe. And those are the things that I expect to happen over the next 5 or 10 years. So the point of that is that I don't want us to make the rules for everyone else. I want everyone to have that equal opportunity to upskill themselves and to build their own societies based on this new amazing amount of things that are going on. So these are the kind of things that I think it's really important for us to do.
Another question or topic, probably from the doomers
Okay.
of AI that comes up is, AI as a digital entity, or I don't know if a lack of a better term, AI getting consciousness one day,
Mm,
and we no longer are in control of it.
yeah.
What is the possibility of that? Is it a possibility? And, how are we going to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen
Okay.
like that?
Well, I mean, the AI become a real digital entity. It's already a real digital entity, right? So what we're building right now is a digital entity. When we speak about AI, we're building AI that will learn from us, that will understand us, that will represent us, that will do whatever we want it to do. It's a digital entity. It's not AGI, which is what we're afraid of. AGI means that it's general intelligence. So we are like general intelligence being, I can just go and learn and do and figure it out as I want to. And our concern is that it will be able to do that. And that when it does that, do we still have control of that? Because we're making an assumption based on our own species that the strongest will survive, and the strongest will beat up everyone else and take over their stuff and make those decisions for them, right? And so this is the kind of thing that we're concerned about. And so if we're building those guardrails, then we'll make sure that those things does not happen. But for it to be move from just a digital entity to be AGI, it will happen. I mean, we're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars for that singular purpose is for us to get there. And I believe it was going to get there. How long, how far? If you listen to the guys that really started that invention, which is DeepMinds from Google, the main guys are predicting about 5 to 10 years to get there. So we're not so far away. If you listen to other people, they're predicting about 2 or 3 years. So we're not talking 20 years from now.
So we got to do part 3 sooner than later.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. So we're expecting that we will reach AGI. I think really, and I mean, it shifts, right? And even the definition. So I'll use the original definition. The original definition is really artificial general intelligence, which is AGI. The definition means that it's as good as we are. in thinking and, and all the things that we do as human, that it's as good as we are. It doesn't really mean that it's better than we are, even though some people use that as a part of the definition. To be better than we are is what we call artificial superintelligence, ASI, and that's the kind of thing that you get really worried about, right? That's the kind of thing that it's so advanced that we just can't even comprehend. We can't comprehend what it's thinking. And so depending on who you're listening to, we believe possibly that once we do achieve AGI, we will have control over it. This is the utopian side of it, that we will have control of it, that it will solve all of these global problems, health problems. You won't worry about getting sick because we know how to solve everything with a human body, because we understand all the human DNA, genes, everything like that. And we're working on a lot of those things already. It's also that we won't have the need to fight for, for resources, because, everyone will have enough clean water. Everyone will have enough food without killing animals. Everyone will have everything that they need, and we'll have the capabilities to just go fly to the stars and, to go repopulate and do whatever else. So that's kind of like what the utopian side of it. We all know about the dystopian side, end of the world kind of thing, Terminator kind of thing, which are we going to see? I don't really think either. I think, based on my understanding of human beings and who we are, we're never satisfied, so we always want more. We don't just want what we have, we want what our neighbors have. So I think we'll still have challenges, not necessarily because of lack of resources, but just because we're human beings, right? So I think that it'll probably be a mix someplace in there. And I think we'll still have challenges, and we may still need lawyers because we're human beings, right? So I think someplace in there. But I do believe that the part though about jobs and stuff, I do believe that there'll be a down period, but I believe that there'll be a bigger upside period over time.
Do you think we'll have to do something like universal basic income in that down period for some people? Just because it might be at a pretty big scale for a period of time.
I think we'll need to do something. We kind of saw, like COVID is an example. There's a period where nobody could work and the government had to step in and do stuff because if not, like, society would crumble. I think we may have a period like that, and the governments will need to do something. Don't know what that something is. I hope they already are working on a plan for that. I haven't heard about that plan. Okay. So because everyone that's serious takes it serious, right? And everyone that understands this technology expects that this will happen, but not permanently. I think most people expect it will be a temporary downturn, temporary 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. I don't really know, but that there'll be a period of time that there'll be maybe some level of chaos from a society point of view because of the way things are, an adjustment period, if you will, and that there'll be more millionaires and billionaires from that period than ever, because the ones that are able to look ahead and position themselves to take advantage of this will, and the majority won't, which is typical of these kinds of periods of time.
All right, awesome. Eric, did you have any questions over there?
Yeah, so you were talking earlier about building brand and value. Do you think you could overutilize AI too much to the point where you're having too many videos going out, cut up, too many automated emails to where your audience or your clients lose, they feel or lose that trust and authenticity in you?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI and automation is really meant to augment what you're doing, to even replace the need for all those extra resources. It's not meant to just throw garbage out, right? Garbage is still garbage, right? So if I'm creating a bunch of videos and they don't make sense and they don't provide value, then that's going to be a turn off, right? But if I'm creating a bunch of videos that my audience want to see and look forward to, then it's not a waste, right? If I'm spamming people, spamming is spamming, right? But if I'm sending you regular emails with real value in it, then you're going to appreciate that as well. So what we're doing with AI and automation, we're making it more affordable for folks, especially. So if you're like a big company, then it's a way to um, it's a way to focus what you're doing and to do more of what it is that you want to do. Maybe there are different markets that you want to get into that you don't have the resources to do it, and you have to make those decisions. And so now you have more capability or the ability to scale faster. If you're an entrepreneur and you would normally not be able to do stuff because you need to spend a year trying to find investors and then you give up. Now you can use AI and automation by yourself as a solo entrepreneur within very affordable means and still compete with folks that did get that $1 million check from an investor. So the answer is garbage is garbage, spam is spam. AI doesn't change that.
And
If
do you have
you're,
a keen eye to tell, like, oh, I think this is AI? Like someone just sent me an email, like, I think that was AI. Like, do you have a pretty keen eye for that?
I don't think it matters to people. Value is value. I think like a lot of things a year ago, our psychology was it's AI, therefore it's not as good. I think we're past that, honestly. I think we're past that. I think like I don't even think about it. I don't care. If you send me a newsletter generated by AI, in fact, it's the opposite. I would be like, like something still that I look at and think people put a lot of effort into it. I'd be like, why did you do that? It's like a stupid use of your time and resources. So um, from my thinking, and I know I'm probably thinking a little bit further than a lot of people because I use it every day, but I believe that um, it's how well, if you're building a business, how well do you utilize your resources, right? Because at least at this point in time, we don't have unlimited resources. So how well are you going to utilize your resources? And if you have, so for me, like building any business, it's not just resources. It's how resourceful are you? And so what these technologies allow you to do is become more resourceful. So if I have like this interview, and if I can if I can take that and I can chop it into 30 pieces, right? Which is what I did with the last interview. And I can schedule a release, a couple of releases a week or 1 or 2 releases per week. And I know that what we talked about is relevant to the audience that I normally speak to. Number one, I don't think they're going to watch 2 hours of, as much as they might not like me. So after maybe 30 minutes, they'll probably drop off or try to fast forward, right? So therefore, they didn't get the full value of what it is that we spoke about. But if they get a 1 minute clip from me once a week or twice a week, they'll watch it, right? And so now the messages that I'm trying to share to my audience, they will absorb it, right? And they will look for more. Oh, wow, that was cool. Oh, yeah, it's Rohan again. Let me see.
Right. But I think the distinction there, though, is those clips of you speaking are you speaking. So
Right.
I'm curious about the tech stuff, because sometimes when I'll get something,
Sure.
I'll be like, oh, I can tell this is AI. It just doesn't feel sincere,
Yeah.
or it doesn't feel like, oh, does this person even really care, or was this just
Yeah.
a sent thing?
Because they don't know what they're doing. And
Their prompt wasn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Gotcha.
But more than that, so that's a really good question, right? Going to ChatGPT and just generating an email versus generating something that's based on your business are not the same thing, right? So I can just go and generate a bunch of generic stuff, and when you receive it, you'll be like, yeah. And that's what most emails are, honestly. That's AI generated. Or, what what we do, and you saw like with our AI brain, as we're calling it, we're training. So anything that I send about Tech for Good book, it's definitely specifically from this content. It's not a generic thing, right? So if I want to start sending out emails, right, about that, which we will, right, then it's going to be using specific excerpts and content specifically from the book. It's not a generic thing.
In the
it's,
book
it's
you wrote,
specific.
it wasn't like AI didn't write the book or anything.
AI didn't write the book.
Okay.
I wrote the book, but I use AI to edit the
Sure.
content, right?
Sure.
Because again, why would you not, right?
Right.
So if I were to just do a generic book and I don't know what it's all about, then again, you'll know
Right.
that. If I'm writing something about what I know about and my experience, but I'm using AI to edit it, then, in fact, it's going to be better than a human editor in most cases. Because I think most writers aren't looking for editors to rewrite their stuff. It's to really like help maybe focus the voice or help clean up, errors or grammatical errors. And AI is really, really good at doing that, right? So I'm a technologist. I wrote a book. I have all the content I want to have clean up. I know that the stuff I wrote about, define, which is why I didn't print it 5 years ago, published it 5 years ago, is that it's heavy stuff, right? And most people would not understand half of it from that to be able to do a really good job of editing it, right? And these are really good uses of AI to be able to do stuff like that. So this is the point, right? The more that we learn about how AI can help us with our day-to-day stuff, the more useful we become and the more useful content we can create as well. So that's where I would be a big proponent of that, even in content creation. So if I say, ChatGPT, write 10 emails for me, that kind of suck. If I say, hey, let's ground in here, and we actually have our own model, so it's not really ChatGPT that we use. Grounded in all this content, let's now create some very engaging email to my audience based on this content. And you'll see the very, very difference. It's like night and day difference that we're doing.
Cool. Makes sense.
All right. Thank you. Well, Rohan, do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
Yeah. So the last thing I end all the chapters with like a future kind of future thing. And so I would be remiss to not do this first.
Take us out on a positive
note
here.
I will. So we spoke a lot about AI, and we spoke a bit about nanotech and conversions and the value of being able to build stuff with that. And so I'll just give you one glimpse into what I think our future will look like with just some of these technologies, right? So think of the Superman example, where Superman is Superman because it has these different things, right? He has all these superpower. That's the way our society will work in the future. And here's an example. So imagine that I go out, I'm out of the house and I want to buy a gift for someone, and I go to a jewelry store and I have my glasses on, and it's a smart glasses. And so within that glasses, I have, of course, nanotechnology. And nanotechnology, the nanotech that's there is built with AI logic to be able to help me with different things, right? It will understand my voice, and it's coded to respond only to my voice. And so I can speak just like I'm speaking to you, and it's listening to everything, and it's also learning all the time about what I like and what I don't like. So I go to buy this gift, and it's in a jewelry store, and I look at it, and it can tell instantly every information about that particular jewelry. Is it, the diamond, and if it's a necklace, is it a blood diamond? Is it not blood diamond? It will be able to tell that, and we'll be able to verify, because that will most likely be on a blockchain someplace. and we can do full traceability of basically any product, and we'll be able to do that in the future. So the glasses has extended reality, so I can actually see all the details about this particular product, or it can speak to me directly, where I'll be able to understand what it is I'm about to buy and have all the details. So I decided I want to have that one. I can just say, I'll buy that one, but I'm not necessarily saying that to a clerk. I'm saying that to my AI that will understand what I mean. The AI will have access to most likely a digital wallet. So this is where blockchain comes in now. So we've gone through, voice activation. We've said AI. We've said nanotechnology, extended reality, which is AR, VR, and now we're saying for blockchain traceability, but using digital wallets, because everyone will have a digital wallet in the future. Depends on what you have in it. Could be Bitcoin, it could be other cryptocurrencies. Most likely you have some kind of central bank digital currency, like a stable coin. We just passed something, I think this week in the US government, that we're going to now allow US-backed stablecoin, like USDC, for example. So I decided I want to do it. I just said to my AI, I want to buy that, and it will validate the price, the cost, and it will send the exact amount of money without me having to do anything automatically from my digital wallet to the digital wallet of the store. Because the same way we all have the ability to process credit cards and bank account, I believe in the future we'll all have digital wallets, and stores will be able to accept that. And it happens that I'm in Tokyo at the time. And so do I want to have it sent to my hotel room, or do I want to have it sent back to the USA, or where in the world I'm living at that time? My AI will be able to know it, or if it's not clear, it can ask me, where do you want to have that? And I'll just say, go ahead and send it back home, and it will be able to do that. The AI will be able to communicate directly to the store's AI, because the store will also have its own AI, because in the future, why would it not? It doesn't even make sense. So my AI will communicate with the store's AI. They will settle the financial transaction, and it will give the order to go ahead and send that jewelry back to wherever it is that I want it to go to. And then they'll go ahead and settle the transaction. And that will all be done automatically just from me, from voice command. And all I've done so far, I've gone in, looked at the jewelry, gotten the data that I wanted, and I said, buy this, and it's done. So I can leave at that point, right? And then I can go to, let's say I take my, my flying taxi, which will happen, my robot taxi, in Tokyo, because I love Tokyo. They're very modern with everything that I want to. So I'm going to go to dinner now. So I'll get into a taxi, and it's going to use robotic technology. It's going to have a lot of edge technology as a part of it. And it'll just go ahead and fly me to wherever it is I'm going to have lunch or dinner. And likewise, I'll walk in and I'll see the menu as a part of my extended reality glasses. I'll just say whatever I want to eat and to drink. It will just go ahead and order that, and it will go ahead and just have the food taken to me, either by a human or by a robot or something, and I'll eat with the people that I'm there. And again, it will go ahead and settle the transaction. What's cool about this is that once a transaction is settled, then the people that are doing labor, because we'll still have a human doing labor, whether they're in the mountains in Jamaica, or if they're in India or wherever it is, they will get instant payment, because why should they wait for a month to get paid when the transactions are already completed? They've provided their value. So instantly they get paid in their digital wallet, wherever in the world they are. It doesn't matter, in whatever currency, some kind of a digital asset most likely. And so they have money to spend right then that will help with their particular economy at that time. And at the same time, we've just created value for that company that's selling those products or services, the restaurant, etc., and their value goes up. And so what we will have in the future is we'll have tokenized value for equity ownership in companies. And so if I'm an equity owner, that tokenized value value will increase, and I'll be notified of that instantly, because the way companies will incentivize employees, the way that we do with stocks and options right now, we'll also do something similar like that, but it will be tokenized. It's much more easier to buy, sell, to trade, and to see value. So those are just some of the few things that we're going to have. We won't have to worry about water, because I can go ahead and, anywhere I go, we'll be flourishing more. Why? Because those countries that are having water shortage, they won't anymore, because you can go ahead and use, whether it's seawater or polluted water, we'll be able to clean that with the different emerging technologies that we have. You won't have fights really, potentially, over, killing animals and stuff like that, because using technologies like CRISPR, with the different synthetic technology, synthetic biology methodologies, and with edge computing, and with what we're doing as well with nanotech, we'll be able to create really, really local economies that we can actually grow our own food wherever it is that you are. Could be in some hut someplace, and we can still do that without needing to go ahead and destroy animals. And at the same time, we'll be able to help our environment and help the planet. So these are some of the visions, I think, for people that believe in tech for good, believe that these are some of the potential. I want it to be like just another dialogue, another way to look at the future of the world, that we have the ability to solve a lot of these things, including health issues, and to be able to do it locally. We don't need to depend on one big superpower. And I think that this is really one potential of where the world is going. But for that to happen, we have to take all of these things we're talking about today seriously, and we have to make that effort that our government understand how important this is, how serious this is, and what risk we're facing. And everyone can do their own part, whatever that part is. You don't have to go and march, you don't have to go and call your senator, but we should all ask ourselves that question: what can we do to help create the future that we want?
Well said. Well, Rohan, where can people go to get the book, learn more about you, work with you, your companies? Where are all the appropriate places people need to go?
I would just say you can just go to Chatbot at OceSha.com, OCESHA.com. And, you can just experience the book for free. If you want to purchase it, there'll be a link on there. You can go ahead and do that. There'll be other information as well. OceSha is my company, so you can just go to OceSha.com or OceSha.co, and you can always just go to RohanHall.com, and you can find everything about me from there as well.
Awesome.
Or LinkedIn, just hit me up at LinkedIn. That's another place.
And again, thank you again for being a part of the Produce Your Passion panel.
Thank you. That was so much fun. I really,
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. Thanks again for having me there as well.
Absolutely. No, I'm really glad that we've connected and continued this relationship. And each time I see you and we talk, things have gotten crazier. So, in a good way, right?
Yeah, it's just going to go faster. This is slow so far. I think I do think so. I think it's slow so far. I think that things are going to start ramping up, and really, really people need to kind of start upskilling. Yeah.
I was going to label this one emergency podcast, but it sounds like that might be coming sooner than later. But Rohan, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the Sam Dever podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@the Sam Dever podcast, and give us a follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. See you soon.